So walk me through that. I mean, what does it take to become a good salesperson?
So to be a salesperson as an individual, I think it takes...
I think scripts are great, guiding beacons for a conversation. They give it structure. They make sure that you don't miss stuff that you're supposed to be talking about in the conversation.
Your sister said what? No way that your manager said that to you. That's outrageous. I'll call him.
Fam, what's up? Welcome back to the 𝗕𝗿𝗆 Podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We are sitting down with 𝗕𝗿 today, all right? So he's the host of the 𝗙𝗿𝗺 Sales Podcast. He's also a real estate coach for the Disruptors brand. And I mean, you guys have come up with a really, really solid sales training program that's now gonna be not just in the real estate space, but it's venturing out into different verticals. So I want to tackle that. I want to talk about that because I feel like sales is you understand the principles, you understand the structure of it, and then you can take that framework and apply it into multiple different areas. I know that Steve and you guys have done well with the frameworks, in the past. So I'm curious about that. You do talk about the truths of sales mastery and like some of the biggest mistakes that are done while going through a sales process. So I think, sales is one of those skills that a lot of people feel like, oh, you know what, I'm not a good salesperson. I wasn't born a sales guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know, in my opinion, I think it's a skill set that can be learned. So with that being said, man, welcome to the podcast. And thank you for taking the time being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'll go farther than that even. I think people tend to only have one of two opinions. Either I'm not naturally good at this, and so therefore I can't do sales, or I'm amazing, I don't need any training. That tends to be people think they're great and have no idea the mistakes they're making. And since most of the people we're targeting are already doing well enough to be able to afford what we're doing anyway, it becomes an extra challenge because our target audience already thinks they're pretty good at sales, and we tend to think otherwise, which we can usually prove through the results we've gotten for other clients. But yeah, happy to be here.
I think maybe 2 weeks ago I reached out to a friend of mine, and he has a different approach to closing, right? Reached out, and I've been closing deals and for years. I started in 2009, so like I'm one of those guys, right? I have my method dialed in. But it's always good to come in and then just get a different perspective of things.
Sure.
It's always good to understand. It's like, oh man, you know what, I can do this pivot here, and it's gonna help me improve my closing ratio by X amount. And I think as a student of the art, you can never say that you have everything dialed in. Because that's when we start to fail on the sales part, on the whatever part. Like it's just, we just have to keep our minds open to learning, I think.
Yeah, we always like to say, is sales training something we did or something we do? And
right.
So we are always trying to get better. People often have the misconception that sales, because it's a soft skill, you learn it and then you're good.
Right.
Right. I just learned it and now I know sales forever. But like you said, you're in gym clothes. You can't get fit once and then never go to the gym again.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but people have a limitation about that. So we're constantly training, constantly role playing, constantly dealing with objections, constantly learning new concepts, and not for us, it's not even just learning the new concepts. It's learning new ways to teach those concepts, because it's not simply can I sell people, it's can I teach people how to sell and get results for them.
Right.
So it's a very rare thing that you can have people who... So there's a reason Steve Trang and I currently are the only sales coaches at Disruptors, is because we've encountered many other very good salespeople. Most people who are good at sales conversations, at getting people to take action, are not great at explaining what they actually did.
Yeah.
And teaching people how to implement that and how to adapt to it if their personality is a little bit different, and how to change it depending on the industry and depending on the lead and the personality type of the person they're talking to. And so we're always grappling with not just how to be better salespeople, but how to be better sales trainers and coaches so that we can get people actually getting results.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? You can sell all the bells and whistles you want, but if there's no functionality behind it or end result that's going to give people, what they're looking for, nothing matters. Like it's inevitably, like, it doesn't matter how good the sale is, the reputation is going to get tarnished down the road, and there's a lot of things that play along, with that you make business impossible. So at the end of the day, like, you have to own your craft, make sure that you're learning on a regular basis, and then more importantly, you have to know that you're good at articulating what you're going through so somebody else can take that and run with it.
There's a reason we have some of the most successful house buying companies in the entire country paying us every month to train their team. And they're not doing that because the marketing worked and they got suckered into paying one time.
Yeah.
People do that because we get results for the people who are still there going through it. And when they hire new people, they can put them into it and immediately start getting results pretty quickly.
So walk me through that. I mean, what does it take to become a good salesperson?
So to be a salesperson as an individual, I think it takes, there's 3 things I'm always looking for. I just had an interview with someone today that we're going to make an offer for to hire for our internal team. The 3 things are coachability. And an aspect of that is not having too big of an ego anyway, because you need to be able to get results to even get in the door to be considered at Disruptors. But you also have to be willing to be given feedback and to implement it. Not just hear the feedback and not whine, but then go, hey, let me try that. Let me try it this way. And let me try and do it. So coachability is the most important thing. And part of that is because I'm a sales trainer and coach. So if I notice that someone's not making changes, it's like, not a chance in hell we're going to hire you. So that's one of the most important things, that you're willing to be adaptable and coachable. Those things kind of go hand in hand, because you have to make adaptations to what you're told to do. The second thing is resilience. An aspect, I know you talk about in entrepreneurship tenacity, and this is a version of that. It's this idea of I can get punched and keep walking. You get told no more often than you get told yes in sales.
Yeah.
That's how this works.
It's facts.
The best salesperson in the world gets told no more often than they're told yes if they're doing this enough. And so the very nature of that means you have to have a resilience, almost like an armor on, that you're willing to get through the no's to get to the yeses. And also in that adaptability, you're willing to look at those no's to see, was that one of those no's that statistically was always going to be there, or could I have done something differently? And the last thing, which is, I think, underappreciated in a lot of sales floors, and has been underappreciated for a very long time, and is more important now than ever since consumers have access to more information, is active listening skills.
Oh, yeah.
Sales is not really about what you say. I mean, it is, but what you say has to be dictated based on what you heard the prospect, homeowner, the lead, what you heard them say to you. If you're not listening, you're not selling, right?
I think that's where frameworks come in handy. I'm not a big fan of the going through the script, right?
Yeah.
I think scripts are great, guiding beacons for a conversation. They give it structure. They make sure that you don't miss stuff that you're supposed to be talking about in the conversation. So they're really good. Don't get me wrong. But active listening is the thing that becomes a key. We're solving problems for people anytime we're selling something. We're not going to be solving the same problem, right, over and over again. It's different problems in real estate. In our world, for example, wholesaling, right? Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's time, sometimes it's relationships. Sometimes there's going to be something that's different, right? And if you're not, if you don't have that element of active listening in there, I've seen it a million times, man. It frustrates me every single time that the seller is telling you what the issue is, but people are focused on the script. So they're moving on to that next question as opposed to really paying attention and leaping off the conversation that way.
I did a training for someone's team yesterday, literally on this exact topic. I said, what are the most pressing issues? And their top performer, he's coachable and humble enough to point this out, he brought up, I'm always too focused on what I'm going to say next. I need some actionable strategies on how to think during a sales conversation to be able to be doing active listening, so that I'm not just simply thinking, okay, I'll ask this question next, and then I'll ask about timeline, and then I'll see if there's any other decision makers. It's not about what you say, it's about what they say to you.
Right.
And so, scripts are training wheels, which are fine to learn how to ride a bike, but there's a reason you don't see grown men riding down the street with training wheels. That's a crazy thing to have on. That's not how you should be solving people's problems, because they can tell when you have a script. You might have a line or two memorized because you know this is the optimal way to say this one little thing every
this phrase
time.
Yeah.
But that's not really a script. That's a line that exists within a framework. And we are huge believers in frameworks, which means moving someone through an emotional trajectory where at the end they feel certain that this was their decision and they want to take action on it. And we have certain checkpoints and things we want to hit along the way. And as long as we do that, I don't care what I need to say next. I'm truly focused on what you're saying so that I can engage with what you just said to lead you towards the right emotional trajectory to have certainty at the end of that conversation.
Yeah, I love that, man. What does well, first off, before we get into the nuts and bolts of everything, how did you get started? How long ago did you start, your sales career and started like making a difference in your own path that way?
So it shocks people how recently I got into commission sales. I was doing sales before because I was managing bookstores in New York City. And one of the things, well, even before that, I was working in a bookstore in Boston. And one of the things the owner of that store used to do was a tiny little shop, indie bookstore, not a Borders. And so it was a mix of new and used. And one of the things I did in that store, because it was a small enough store, I might have it the entire weekend, like 9-10 hour shifts, Saturday and Sunday. And so he would give me a challenge to sell some obscure book over that weekend. Like, I sell this book on birds or whatever. And I would be like, okay, challenge accepted. I didn't get paid anymore for this sale. Yeah. But the way I did it was, and the very reason people, and this is, years ago now, but still the reason people walk into bookstores instead of going to Amazon is usually for an aspect of wanting that interaction, wanting to ask for recommendations. Yeah. And so that there's an extra element of that there. It's like the opposite of a car dealership where no one wants to talk to a salesperson. Yeah. People want to talk to employees at bookstores.
Yeah, it's a good point. Actually, when I buy cars, I'll call in the day before. I'll look online. I'll call in the day before. Like, do you have this car in this color? Do you have these features? And I'll call it in.
Yeah.
And I just negotiate the entire thing over the phone the day before. It's like, tomorrow I want to be in and out in an hour. Like, can you make that happen? If you can, I'll see you tomorrow. If not,
the opposite of a bookstore, certainly an indie bookstore experience. Yeah. And so people would come in, and they'd say like, "Hey, I want a recommendation," and I would ask bizarre questions. I would say things like, "How was your day today?" And they'd be like, "I had kind of a crummy day." Okay, had kind of a crummy day. What did you read last that you loved, and are you not in the mood for at all? And they would tell me, and I'd go, "Okay," and I would come and bring them 2 or 3 books, and go read the front, read the back, and the first page, and tell me which ones you want to walk home with. And I would always include the one I had in the 3, and inevitably I would get it sold every week. Yeah. And he was like, "How do you do it?" Because like people were actually buying it. It's not like I was buying it. People were actually buying it. He had no idea. I was just, by truly orienting unusual questions around an obvious thing, it made people more interested. I got this from a friend of mine who is still doing solar sales. He was working on a hot dog stand. It was a weird little indie hot dog place in New York City as well. And the names of the hot dogs in the menu did not explain what was in it. Like, it was a weird, like, hipster level Brooklyn type thing. And so it'd be called like, the John Goodman. You're like, what is in this hot dog? And so people would come up to him and go like, what's good here? What should I order? And I heard him say one time, like, "How was your day today?" Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, I had a great day." "Okay, do you like spicy?" He's like, "I love spicy. Spicier the better. Cheese, lactose intolerant. Cheese and spice are good for me." He'd go, "Sit down. I'm going to bring you 2 hot dogs. You're going to love them." And he'd get insane tips at this thing. And I was like, I'm going to start doing that with books. So that was, there was no commission paid on that. But I was having sales conversations before I was even in sales. My first commission-only role was selling life insurance in New York City to union members, which is a tough gig, man. Because I'm talking to like Teamster truck drivers about what it's going to be like for their family if they don't come home tomorrow, and they did not want to have that conversation. Yeah. So I had to cut my teeth on that, and that was never the goal. Was to get life insurance. The goal was I wanted to become a tech evangelist. I wanted to stand on stage and I wrote down on a note card, 10 years from now I'll be standing on stage introducing the world to the next iPhone, because I thought a sell to many tech product thing would be fun. Yeah. I thought I would like that. I was like, well, I don't have any sales experience. What hires? And the joke is, if you can breathe onto a mirror and it fogs up, they'll hire you to sell life insurance. It's that easy to get hired there. So I was like, all right, great. I saw that. I applied. I got it. I did it for a short period of time. Learned that I loved it. I didn't love the insurance part, but I loved the conversation, the consultation, the moving someone through an emotional trajectory. The fact that it was so hard, and the harder I worked, the more I got paid. I got addicted to that immediately. And I was training other life insurance agents because they're hiring, basically people off the street for that. Yeah. You're an expert. You're better than the people below you if you're there for like 3 months, right? Yeah. So then I was immediately training other people. I was like, oh, I like training other people in sales. I had no idea. It just sort of stumbled into it. So that was my first foray into something commission. This was right at the start of the COVID pandemic. I interviewed before COVID, so it's only been like 4 or 5 years since I've been in commission.
Man, and it's incredible how quickly, you can see a 180 change in just lifestyle altogether, right? Not necessarily just the money part, but the growth part because of sales. Sales put you in a very, very challenging position. Like, if you're good at sales, you're going to be able to thrive I mean, practically in any environment, because you're good at sales, period, right? But I think also what it does is like it pushes you to pushes your own boundaries, right? When especially on commission, I love commission. I mean, I started and I mean, well, anytime you launch a business, you're basically launching your own commission stuff. So when I left the fire department at and I launched the business, this is my early 20s, is like I went from a salary to like, oh shit, now I got to make my own bread. And I think again it puts you in a very different state of mind. And you mentioned something, the emotional trajectory as you're going through the process. I think it's something that's over or undermined at a lot of times going through a sales process, right? Like people sell, people buy emotionally, and they justify logically after the purchase, right? So walk me through, what does the ideal framework look like on a sales process?
So there's a reason my Instagram name is Vivid Selling, and it's not because I like the word vivid. It's an acronym for the order of questions I move someone through. So VIVID stands for vision, identify, validate, impact, decision. And
I like that.
It's the vision for where they want to go, identify the gap between where they are right now and where they want to be. I validate their hesitations and concerns at all times. I talk about the impact of not taking action. And then finally, what would they like to decide to do? But the emotional trajectory in the order of those questions that are, the type of question is segmented under each one of those letters in the acronym, is gain to pain to pen. So many people start with problem diagnosis, and I think that's a mistake, because motivation for wanting to make a buying decision is, you're right, people buy emotionally and justify logically, but motivation can be classified as either gain or pain, in my opinion. It's either an aspect of getting more, making more, doing better, more security, more luxury, more comfort, more status, more potential, more safety, or it's an aspect of loss aversion, protection, don't want to miss out, I'm worried about the consequences. And pain will always inspire more urgency than gain. Gain will make people want to do it, but they might not want to do it right now. And by the very nature of running a process, you want them to do it now while they're talking to you. So I talk about most of the time now, I'm selling an aspect of sales training, which is a very sort of meta experience, right? Because I'm selling the training the way I'm going to teach them to do it. But I start talking about, like, how much would you be hoping to make? Like, okay, if you're making that much, what would your life look like?
Yeah.
Would you be investing some of that extra amount into it? Like, what would you're making that much. How much different is that from what you're making right now? Identify the gap. What are some of the challenges holding you back from making that right now currently? And if they're giving me hesitations, I validate but do not agree, not necessarily agree. The differentiation I give here, because I heard this from Grant Cardone. I don't mean to put Grant Cardone on blast, but one of his sales books, Sell or Be Sold or something, he has this thing like, always agree with the prospect. And I disagree with that, though he's right about the emotional idea of always agree with the prospect. So I think if someone's giving you an obstacle or an objection, an obstacle can turn into an objection, but it's not necessarily an objection to the sale. Objection, it's too much money. Obstacle, I'm not comfortable revealing my budget at the start. So if I'm not addressed, it will turn into an objection if I leave it alone, but it's only it's not an objection yet if they bring it up earlier on. Those things I view visually as someone raising a shield. They're just not letting me run through my process. And the most effective way to deal with someone who raises a shield is the opposite of how most sales training teaches you to deal with an objection. Everyone talks about objection handling, rebutting an objection. They talk about hitting the shield. The problem is, if you hit the shield and you don't knock it out of their hand, they dig in harder. I'm worried if it doesn't work because it's not the right emotion. But if I go, I totally understand why you would think that, it's walking around the shield, and I just continue on and can come back to it later. So the example of agreeing is the same idea, but there's a value challenge with that. So for instance, if in the car sales example, let's say I'm selling Mercedes, and the customer who's standing there goes, you know what, I don't really like Mercedes. By Grant Cardone's world, I would go, you know, I agree with you, Mercedes are no good. I just shot myself in the foot. I'm selling Mercedes. How am I supposed to sell you a Mercedes now if I agreed with you? But if I validated you, it's the same emotional experience without the value there. So I might go, I totally understand why you'd say that. Most of the people in the past who've said something like that, it's either because they didn't like a couple people who they knew who drove Mercedes, or maybe they had a bad experience with a particular car. I'm curious, what's making you say that?
Which one was it? Yeah.
It's the same idea as I agree with you without shooting yourself in the foot. So that's why validate is the middle V. But yeah, the trajectory truly is like talk about how great it could be, talk about the gain at the start, which is also easier for people to answer. If I start with problems, people are more closed off earlier on in the conversation. Like, talking to distressed homeowners, how many people are in a distressed situation? A few, but most are not immediately open with you about all the challenges and struggles. They're like, I got things figured out, don't worry about it. So let's start talking in questions that are easier to answer, which are not emotionally charged, which is the gain. And that way it's easier for them to answer at the start, and we're ending on the problems anyway, so that it inspires more action right now rather than extending out the time. So gain to pain to pen is the right emotional trajectory.
Gain to pain to pen.
And some of the things I like to do, because sometimes you're talking to someone and they don't have a lot of pain, right? Like, say, a landlord who theoretically the tenant's annoying and doesn't pay all the time, and there's not a lot they could do with it, but they're not about to get thrown out on the street. This could be their 9th property. That's not a lot of pain. They have motivation because the tenant's annoying, but how am I supposed to get the pain in there? So the idea then is to talk about, in the hypothetical, about all the things they could get with the gain. So for instance, I might say, some of the landlords I talk to, because if this tenant's fine, you're not distressed at all, you're not motivated at all, this tenant's fine. Some landlords we've bought cash for, or we paid cash for, when we buy their property, the reason they even considered it is not because they needed the cash and they were in dire circumstances. It's because they had their ears to the ground and were looking for other opportunities, maybe like a mobile home park or something else that they always wanted to do. And rather than having the capital tied up in a property they don't like with an annoying tenant, they'd rather put that capital into something else. You probably don't have your ear to the ground on anything.
Yeah.
Most investors are always thinking of the next thing. And so if you can talk to me like, well, I was thinking about getting in 50-50 on this little motel deal. Oh, tell me about that deal. Now we're talking about the gain, the vision part. And at the end of that, I can take it away. Like, after you've talked about how great that would be, how much more hands-off that is, how much more money there is at the end of that, I say, do you feel like, feeling all of that, do you feel like this money's better tied up with these current tenants right now instead of everything you just described?
Actually deploying it, yeah.
I've just created a pain after starting on the gain, because they're feeling the difference between what they just described could be and their current situation. And now I can lean on that to take action right now.
Yeah, I like the approach, man. I think it's one, right? Whenever we have sales calls and whenever we're negotiating deals and stuff like that, I mean, I do have, we call it a discovery call with the sellers.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that discovery call, I mean, we go through, some pragmatic stuff. Okay, what's the condition of the house and whatnot. But then when we get to this portion, which is the situation, like that becomes a very, very subjective conversation.
Yeah.
Right. They may be open, they may not be open, but if you don't pry a little bit, if you don't push the envelope a little bit on that conversation, you use the right phrasing, the right approach to it. I mean, people are usually not gonna tell you their life story. I mean, some of them do. You'd be surprised, right?
Yeah, true.
But most people will hold, like you said, they'll have a guard up to, towards that kind of questioning. And if that's the case, I mean, you can build any rapport that you've created up to that point. How big is rapport in this framework, and how do you go about nurturing that as you're going through this conversation in a somewhat of a quick way, because it's sales. We have to do a lot of them.
I love this question, Rafael. So, because I think how most people talk about rapport, I think, is wrong. Most people describe rapport as likability, and because they say people buy from people they like. I've got plenty of people in my life that I like. I've got uncles that I would love to hang out with. We'll go to many a game. We'll go to the Suns, but I don't want you seeing the numbers on my Amex card.
Yeah.
Like the people buy from people they trust. Like is nice, but it's not what I'm in pursuit of. So the right type of rapport is trust, and trust cannot be built at the start because I went to the same hometown and we have this. We like
Those
the
are
same sports team.
icebreakers.
Those are icebreakers. Real rapport is trust, and it has to be built incrementally over time through asking the right questions and then recapping back what I heard you say to make sure you feel heard and understood. And so rapport is built incrementally. And I love you're talking about not everyone's willing to open up about their pain. We've got ways that, there's certain keywords and phrases that we're always looking out for. So keywords and phrases that imply a need or reveal some type of pain. So if someone's like, yeah, we've been going through stuff, but it's been kind of a struggle to pay bills these days, but everything's fine. I heard struggle. Struggle is something I'm going to lock on. I was like, you said struggle. Would you be willing to tell me a little bit more about that? Just start in on it. A lock-on question on one word that implied some type of need or pain.
Right, a bigger story there.
Bigger story.
Yeah, reading between the lines.
And then they'll tell me a little bit more about that. They're not going to tell me everything. And then we've got ways to extract out pain. So I've got this thing, we didn't even talk about this before, the 4 pillars of pain, which are, what is it? How long has that been going on for? How is that affecting you? And how is that affecting other people?
Yeah.
And the way you can ask questions about that, people will start revealing more and more, because it's not like, and tell me about the emotional impact of the letter in the mail from the bank. It's not like that at all. It's like, when did you first get that letter? I got it 3 months ago. Okay, what was that like for you? It wasn't my favorite day. And like, that's not enough for me to go to someone else. So I'm like, tell me a little bit more about what you mean. Just seeking more clarity through curiosity. Tell me a little bit more. When you say it wasn't the best day, I hate to ask this question, but like, are you comfortable telling me just a little bit more about what that day was like? Because I'm a little confused. Blaming myself so that they're willing to open up, rescue me from my confusion. And they'll go, well, I knew it had been coming for a while, and it just, I kind of like, I did not feel good. What was the worst part about it? Well, having the conversation with my wife about it was the toughest thing for me, honestly. But I don't even want to get into that. I don't blame you for wanting to get into that. What was that conversation like?
Yeah.
Validate, but then not agree, even at that point. I don't want to talk about what it was like for my wife. I get why you don't want to talk about that.
But tell me
what
more.
did she say? But tell me more, because you had the emotional experience of validating you, but then I sought more clarity. And sometimes I do it through my own confusion, or if I want to introduce a new concept, I have some type of third-party story. Other people whose homes we've bought, they've told us that when they got a letter in the mail from the bank like that, they can find that they're suddenly stressed out, and the stress of that can affect their sleep, or like they're even at least thinking about it before they go to bed. I don't know if that sounds relevant to you. And it doesn't even feel like a question, because I pull away and they go like, well, I do think about it before bed. Okay, that's all I need. Now I can go in on that. Do you think if you're thinking about it before bed, is there a chance that's affecting your sleep?
Yeah.
There's a chance. How big is that chance? It's big enough. Okay, your wife, has she noticed that you've been like lacking sleep, or what's the conversation been like there? She said I got bags in my eyes. What was that like for you when she said that, knowing it's because there was this letter in the mail from the bank? And there's ways we can keep going in without going, tell me about your pain.
Pulling threads. And I think that's the importance of active listening, right? And reading between the lines. Again, like if you do straight up script stuff,
you can't do that.
You can't do that.
It's impossible.
Yeah, you can't do it. You can't play around. Not that you're being deceiving about any of it. You're just paying attention to the conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, and working your way through it. We were talking about rapport a little earlier. One of the biggest cues, I guess. I mean, we talk about isopraxism, right, or mirroring when we're generating or creating rapport with somebody else. Like, yeah, you mirror them and you mirror them. But I think, like when you have a next level of rapport, it does come with trust. But at a subconscious level, you can see it when people start mirroring you. So, for example, and I'll do this during sales conversations, or even just a conversation, I don't know, at a restaurant or a bar or something. If I want to test how much rapport I have with somebody else, I'll lean forward, I'll cross my arms, and the tendency, if you're really in a conversation with somebody else, they will mirror you subconsciously. They can't control it. It happens, right? Because you're on that same playing field. So it's one cue that happens if you're kind of playing on not playing, but if you're paying attention to the subconscious behaviors and body language, right? It's another thing.
You're exactly right. So you touched on two things I love there. One is that you have a lot of advantages doing this in the home because of the body language cues. And we often recommend the way to test it is to first, I would first cross my legs like you, and then uncross and see if you uncross afterwards. Right. It's like that type of thing. But you touched on something else that I love, which is something I train everyone to do. Please do this. Is that when you're learning a new concept or a new skill, try it on friends and family when revenue is not on the line. If you are waiting to try a new technique, a new tonality, a new mirroring tactic, when you've got $40,000 on the line, one of two things will happen. Either A, you won't actually do it because you're afraid to do it because now money's on the line, or B, you'll probably do it wrong or stutter and stumble and then be like, yeah, I knew that didn't work.
You need the reps.
You need the reps. Get the reps when money doesn't matter. So first, just practice with coworkers, friends, family, phone calls with old buddies, then transition to older leads, follow-up calls, people who you know aren't going to be a deal, but theoretically it's still a sales conversation, and then try it and like, oh, that worked there. Then you can start using it when it's like, this is what you needed to get that six-figure deal over the line.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Like, we have to practice the skills in a different place, right? Not when we're there at the sale. I mean, that's the time to just operate and perform. But there's plenty of a trial space. I started looking at behavioral tendencies and studying behaviors. I mean, early on, I'm talking maybe 20 years ago, I think. So I got really, really into it. That's what kind of led me on the whole psychology path, right? But when I came across the, for example, something very simple, the idea of like the DISC, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a simple way of reading patterns and understanding that we're algorithms. So I started understanding that to a point where we can actually become walking, DISC assessments. When you see somebody, you start understanding, okay, this person is gonna, kind of wired like this, from a natural perspective, and then we have learned behaviors that come right after it. But the point I'm trying to make is I used to I started learning that stuff because I applied it, or I saw it in my family members, in my friends, and I'll go back to read the book. It's like, oh shit, and then I would synthesize my own ideas, my own, from that, right? But it was just in interactivity. Like, we have to be consciously aware that every day you're out there, you're like, for example, in the sales. I mean, every day we're out there, we're selling ourselves. When we go to a restaurant, we sit down for a meal, we're selling ourselves to the environment, to the people around us, to whether or not the waiter is going to like us or not. Like, we're always selling ourselves.
Yeah. Sales is just communication skills.
Yeah.
That's really all it is. Whether or not money is exchanged at the end is a unique version of it manifesting in one place. But whether or not you're inspiring a team, you're communicating to the internet, you're talking to people online, it's just persuading, influencing, just getting your message across through how you communicate. That's all sales really is. The outcome varies depending on the industry and how you want to use it. Like Steve talks all the time that sales skills has made him a better father and husband. It's done the same for me too. Mm-hmm. One of the things that stood out to me was I used to, when my wife would get angry about something a friend said or something happened at work for her, my response was I'll be her rock, right? I thought I'll be calm and chill, and so that way she can calm down too. And then she would always get angrier and angrier and angrier because I was so calm.
You don't care.
She never said it it wasn't that obvious, but I could why is this not working? Me being this calm, steady, stoic guy isn't working. And then I realized I was like, oh no, it's like 𝗕𝗄𝗎 talks about there can't be two people in the angry boat. Yeah. I just learned, I was like, oh, what? I'll get angrier than her. I was like, your sister said what? Like that type of thing. No way that your manager said that to you. That's outrageous. I'll call her. I get angrier than her. So then she's like, no, it's okay. Calm down. Then she can calm down because I got angry too. And it's understanding all these little emotional cues around what inspires people to action. We're just distilling that into a way where you can make money off of it in certain conversations, but the communication skills exist regardless of what you're doing. We're all selling all the time.
Right. I completely agree. What are some of the you talk about some of the cues or the keys to sales mastery? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So number one inherent truth of just of being in pursuit of sales mastery is understanding that sales is the creation of certainty. It's not necessarily the transference of it. So my point there is that so many salespeople for the longest time have thought that you need to be high energy and you need to be certain this is for them. I mean, I'm sure you've had conversations in selling people on mentorship and stuff, and there's this thing you think if I'm certain this was exactly what you need. That's how most people are taught to sell, but that's not really what matters. All that matters at the end is that the person you were talking to is certain. And so as long as we can understand that, we can make adjustments based on DISC, based on the product or service, based on what we need to do. We can be adaptive and realize this person doesn't need me to be certain. Some personalities do, but most actually don't. It's okay if I'm like, does this even make sense for you? Would you even act on this information if you got it? Because other people I've talked to, sometimes they don't even want to take action. I don't, am I missing something? And that can, like, no, I definitely will. That, all that matters is creating certainty. So that's inherent truth number one. Number two, you already brought up, it's just a deeper dive in it, which is that people buy emotionally and justify logically. And that we have to understand the emotional context of what someone is going through. So sometimes that leads into number three, which is understanding the why. There are emotional implications underneath people's reasons that they first give you that they're not eager to reveal. And our job is to go deeper. Like, did you get a letter in the mail from the bank? What are the emotional implications of that? What happened that made you get that letter in the mail from the bank? What was that like for you? How has that been over that long period of time? Is that affecting have your kids seen you? Were your kids in the room when they saw you see that? How do you think they reacted? Were they okay? Oh, I'm so glad you were able to remain calm. But what's that been like to you, keeping that inside? There's all these emotional implications. And if we can get people emotional, we can inspire the urgency to take action now. So that's like some of the first three. There's 7 more.
Well, just go through them.
Let's see if I got them all memorized. Some of the next ones are like the emotional trajectory is gain to pain to pen, understanding that idea, understanding that indecision is itself a decision. That is a really key point that is not actually talked about enough. And it's not that I might not just tell a prospect that outright because that seems sort of aggressive. But as long as I know that, I can do things like in doing recapping statements, make sure I am tethering their emotion and pain to their current state, even if it's a past pain. An example of that might be, let's say, a salesperson that is not getting the results he wants, and before he had a job that had such good marketing that things were falling in his lap. He was basically an order taker and making more money, and now he's in a better opportunity, but the leads aren't as qualified, so he's struggling now.
They were wholesaling in 2020.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's just wholesaling in 2020 compared to right now. And and so it's like there's a struggle there. If I want to tether in action, I was like, I could say, like, do you feel like it even feels like your responsibility to like make a change now, knowing that things have been changing for years and it's not 2020 anymore? I'm always like using emotional language to tie now and an action in their current state to a past pain, because that helps initiate the drive to want to make a change, which is what a sale is choosing to exchange something for a change. Another one is the right questions in the right order matter. That's what the vivid selling framework is for. Is like, if I start with an easier question, I can get you in the mode of answering questions. So I don't care about the yes stack that was like old-timey sales trading. You know this idea? Like someone says yes 7 times and then go for the sale. Yes stack is useless because yes is one of the easiest words to say is a lie. And so is no. Like yes, no questions are usually a waste of time. I only ask yes, no questions. This is another inherent truth. Ask yes, no questions strategically to maintain engagement. So it's a thing like, I might close off before opening up, or use it to get permission. Hey, I have kind of a tough question. It's okay if I ask you kind of a tough question? Then they'll say, yeah, sure, go ahead. That's a yes, no question I asked on purpose. Now I'll ask, like, do you feel like you're holding yourself back from making a change? That I wouldn't just start with that question. I got permission by closing off intentionally first before opening up. I've lost track of where I was. I wish I'd printed out the inherent truth. But like, so that idea of being strategic with the order of questions so that people never feel like they're never asking a question that was too hard of an ask, because that can happen all the time in wholesale. Like, boy, that's personal. What does that have to do with the sale of my home? Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that can be very intrusive or feel very intrusive.
Yeah.
But it's stuff that we need to know. We need to find out what's going on in order to be able to provide a solution.
If we can put them in the right order, they're not only more likely to answer it honestly, but far less likely to go, what does that have to do with it, if the order is in the right order?
Right.
And then one of the things that just is so key is that we need to be making sure we are doing everything in our power to get the prospect, the homeowner, if it's real estate, getting them to verbalize what's important to them, not to tell them. So one of the biggest things I hear from acquisition managers and other salespeople in other industries when they're telling me about a failed sale is they describe it as, well, I tried to tell him this, or I tried to explain that the bank wouldn't that. They're always talking about trying to tell them. And if we can turn it into a question, my principle is that if I say it, it's salespeople talk. Because I am financially incentivized for you to believe me.
Right.
If you say it, it's gospel. So everything is in my power, it's my priority to get you to verbalize it so that I can use it. I can only go for the close based on the things you tell me. So if I go, tell me, do you even feel like this is an issue right now? Or maybe there's something else going on. And if they come like, no, I do feel like it's an issue. Okay, tell me more about that. Well, it's been going on for 6 months. What has it been like for those past 6 months? Now, what you verbalize to me is what causes you to take action, not what I tell you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and you make a really good point, man. Like the leaning back into a lot of times ego will get in the way of sellers, right? Like, no, they're trying to sell me. I'm feeling sold. I'm feeling this and that. So I feel like sometimes highlighting the reason why they're in a tight spot, it may feel intrusive, but it's needed because a lot of times a reminder is required as to, okay, what got you into the space. So if you have stagnation, for example, people in foreclosure or whatever, sometimes it's the loss of a job or whatnot. Yeah, so it varies, right? But then you have, a lot of repeat offenders, people that keep getting into foreclosure. So it becomes a habit because they're working the system and whatnot. But you go back to that pain of going through, okay, like it's been like this for the last 6 months. You have the creditors on top of you, like, what's going to be, how are you going to solve this issue going forward, right? And I feel like a lot of times it's recruiting their assistance on through the process. So it's like you said, I like the way that you're presenting the opportunity for them to highlight what's wrong.
Yeah.
And as opposed to you, listen, you're screwing up around at this port.
I don't want to tell them because they might not believe me. But if they tell me, that's real.
Right.
So everything is around, I would rather either ask a question or make a statement that they can treat as a question.
Right.
Because sometimes you can make an extreme statement. I just did a podcast on this today. I don't know when it'll come out. It's on this idea of making assumptive statements to either get a that's right or, more often than not, to have them correct you and actually give you more clarity about what's really going on.
Yeah.
And so as long as I can be asking questions, and if I ask too many questions in a row, I don't want it to feel like an interrogation, be able to make an extreme statement, and then you correct me and give me even more clarity, you're telling me what's important to you. So basic things around that, if someone's not hesitant, because I heard about this last week. Someone was like, what's your timeline for wanting to sell your home? And I was like, I'm in no rush. I don't really even know. And so he remembered the training I taught him. So he made an assumption. He's like, so I'm guessing end of the year would be okay? He's like, oh, no, I would need it done by August. There's no way I can wait till the end of the year. But he didn't, because by asking the question, he didn't feel the need to actually give him the real answer. And so sometimes you can make an extreme statement because it's way easier to lie to a question than it is to let an incorrect statement stand.
Yeah.
You'll see this all the time. It's part of what works on social media. There's a reason people blow up on social media is not usually because they're talking in ways that are like weigh all the issues and talk about all the possibilities. It's because you make an extreme statement and then people correct or fight for it or go against it. Being polarizing in the absoluteness of your message inherently gets people responding.
Yeah, either pro or against. Right?
Yeah,
so
and against will always be more active than pro because they feel the need to have to tell you, no, you're wrong about that.
Yeah. Corrections.
Absolutely.
No, I totally agree. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see salespeople out there doing or making?
It's an aspect of thinking their job is to tell them what to do rather than asking questions. That is the most common mistake I've seen from even people who are making almost doctor level money. They're still falling back into these like bad patterns of telling people. And it can work if you tell them. It's just not a best practice. We're big believers, Steve Trang and I, in best practices, meaning this works the most effectively the most amount of times regardless of the circumstances, rather than sometimes salespeople will do something and they got the deal in spite of their behavior. And they're like, see, that's why I got the deal. I'm like, it's not because you juggled for him. I know you juggled for him and then got the deal, but it wasn't your juggling skills that got the deal. It was because he was you had paid a lot for that lead and he was in a lot of distress and you offered a good price and were pleasant. It's not the juggling. And so the juggling is a made up example, but it's like people often accredit things that didn't actually help them. Like, because I told him the story about my dog died too, and he brought up their dead dog, and that always works. It's like, no, that worked that one time, and then you're forgetting all the times it doesn't. So salespeople also inherently have happy ears, right? You notice you're talking to acquisition managers, like, so what's the deal? Like, oh, I got like 3 people, like they're definitely gonna move forward. It's like, no, they're not even gonna answer your call when you call them back.
Yeah.
But they've got such happy. It's the nature of who's drawn to this type of role, because you need a certain level of optimism to push through the nose. The downside of that is you're happier as you lose track of reality a little bit.
Yeah.
So
or you get surprised when you get
Yeah.
blindsided and they ghost you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we had such a great conversation.
Yeah, it's like, I believe you did have a great conversation.
We had a 3-hour conversation about football.
Yeah, right. About the wrong thing, around the
Yeah.
wrong type of rapport. Because they might have liked you. That doesn't mean they're going to sell
Yeah.
their home to you at a discount.
Right.
Because they don't trust you to solve their problem. I had a labrum tear in my early 20s from my very first jiu-jitsu class. First one, I tore my labrum. And I did surgery from it. And my surgeon, I didn't particularly like the guy, but I trusted his expertise.
Yeah.
The way he diagnosed stuff, and like, he was like uncle-like. Maybe it was the idea of like not loving the guy, but like feeling like, oh, I trust your decision. I trust you to do a good job on this, even though you're not coming with me to barbecues.
Yeah.
And so if we can be in pursuit of being the doctor of someone, because in a way, to sell your house at a steep enough discount where it makes sense for an investor to buy, it's a little bit like getting surgery. And if the process is, yeah, hi doc, I got this pain in my knee. Great, we need to amputate. What? What are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
Like, no, it's like, no, show me how long it's hurt. Like, how does it hurt? Does it hurt when you do this? How long does that hurt for? Let's run some tests, run some scans. Tell me about your knee. Tell me about the injury. When did you first notice it? If you actually run through the discovery process the right way, they will trust your recommendation because you feel like you've gone through everything. And so many salespeople think it's like, they liked me and we talked for 3 hours.
Right.
Why did that not move forward? Liking you is not enough to want to move forward with you. It's fine to have, but I would never want to be in pursuit of it over professional trust.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's a very good distinction to make, and I think it's really a needle mover, right? You're absolutely correct in the stance that people will like you, they will hang with you, they will, I don't know. I've closed deals where I've had to go sit against my will at a bar and have a beer with the guy.
Yeah.
Right. It's on that, like, and it's happened a couple of times actually. So anyways, like it happens in conversation. That likability comes in, and it is a factor, I feel. But it's kind of like, when you like somebody that's good looking, right? You don't know their personality yet.
Yeah.
You don't know their character yet. You just know they're good looking. So you go and talk to that good looking person. Oh, then you happen to be a good human. I like that. That's that's the money, the thing right there.
Yeah.
But there has to be something that just kind of opens up the gate, and I feel like that likability kicks in there, but it's not the end all be all. You have to be trusted, and you have to make sure that you convey that trust, right, as a salesperson. Because being in sales, to me, it's not moving. It's not the money maker thing that's gonna make it happen. It's a problem solving. Being authentic and caring, and I've seen some of the best salespeople that I know out there are the best salespeople because they care. They understand that solving an issue and creating a better world for that person matters, right? So the money becomes a byproduct of that.
Exactly. And again, all things being equal, I will definitely go with, if I have 2 surgeons that I know are exactly the same and one I like more than the other, I would want the one I like more. I just would never be in pursuit of likability over trust.
No,
the likability happens almost by accident when in pursuit of trust.
Yeah.
And especially because, most people, it's like the trust thing takes so much longer to get to. Most people will feel a feeling of liking you if they trust you anyway. And so it's like that beer is just like the extra little sort of like icing on top to make them be like, well, the fact that he even came out with me shows that he cares about me, which is an aspect of showing you care, shows that they can trust you with this big decision.
And just for the sake of clarity, it wasn't against my will.
Yeah, I figured it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't at gunpoint, I'm sure, but I'm sure you had other things you'd rather be doing.
He wasn't even done, you know, when it's like, yes, let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, no, you make some very, very, you know, good points, right? And it speaks to the level of importance that having a framework and understanding where to go in a conversation, how to navigate a conversation, right? And how to, at the end of the day, we have to move the needle forward. Like in every single conversation that we do, for example, on follow-up, right? When we're following up with people, it's not, hey, how are you doing? I'm just following up again. You know, so you have to move that forward. Like what's the next step that's going to happen? You have to, you know, lean into it. You have to remember the stuff that happened prior, right? But like after this conversation, you have to be a step closer to getting that end result that you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Getting them their solution as well. So if you don't have a framework, I mean, I think that's practically impossible. Like it doesn't happen.
And I mean, you just touched on another thing because I found this out a couple months ago that some people will even have maybe because they work at a company or something, or they've got training or they've paid for something. They might have a framework for the initial conversation, but they're out the window with follow-up. They have no idea what to do when they're talking to them again.
I see that so often with students.
Hey, just following up. Like, what are you doing? Why are you? Who calls? Like you have absolutely no status. You've got no reason to call. This is a thing I covered on the 𝗙𝗿cie podcast, and this is a perfect thing to give away. We made a free follow-up template for it was I forget how many, maybe 10 or something like that, of things that had variables based on either something that's changed with you, the market, or based on the notes you had on them as a reason to call. And sometimes it can be...
Can you share that with the audience?
Yeah. So the way to get it is just text follow up to 33777. Follow up 2 words. And we'll send that to you for free for sure. 33777. Yeah. Follow up 2 words.
Awesome. Thank you.
One of the examples of that is even it's so crazy because it's so simple, but it's so much more effective than, hey, I'm just following up, or hey, I'm just checking in. It could literally be like, hey, Rafael, it's almost August now, and I know a lot of people are looking to try to move before the school year starts. I remember you had kids from our conversation, so I just wanted to reach out before the fall actually starts and see if you had a chance to figure out you've already sold your home or have any plans on what to do next. That already, you skip the first 4 minutes of the conversation of making a thing that's timely. The reason for the call is because of the time changing and some aspect of the note that you had in the CRM for them. They're like, oh yeah, I did talk to this person. Because the mistake of, hi, I'm just following up, means you never even get past that step. You always get the, no, we're good. Thanks so much.
I'll follow up again in whatever.
All right, when should I call you back? I don't know, 2 months. Okay, should I call you back in 2 months? Yeah, okay, bye.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to that. You're just literally wasting your time. And in business and in sales, especially commission only, but truly just most of sales, we're not just paid for results. We are paid for how efficient we are with our time. Because you can only get results. We all have the same amount of time in a day. You can only get results while you are conscious on based on what you were doing.
Yeah.
So if you're wasting time, you're wasting money. It's an aspect of not doing a good enough job if you're spending all this time on follow-up for people who are never going to sell their home to you anyway.
Yeah.
And so, or if you're doing it in a way that you will never be their right choice because someone will always swoop in who has more expertise, who has a process, who knows how to get them emotional. You're just going to be, you might luck into it by that person blowing up the deal and then you're there. But that's not how you want to build a business off of accidentally.
Yeah.
Like the joke I have, a friend always says this thing, he's like, I farted my way into this. It's like a lot of people fart their way into deals. Like you just by accident because you just showed up, which here's the truth. That's not a bad way to get started because that's proof of concept. Now you're doing it. But if you are serious about this, if you're actually trying to make money at this, you should be trying to follow habits and patterns that are scalable and are a good best practice so that you can actually get things done most of the time instead of relying on luck and just doing the activity.
Well, you got to learn your craft. I mean, that's what it comes down to, man. No, that's awesome. It's a great conversation. I mean, there's a lot of golden nuggets here on the, from the framework to some of the top mistakes and the keys to the right process of the sale. If somebody wants to find out more about what you guys are doing and maybe connect with you guys, where's the best place to reach you guys at?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Vivid Selling, and so I'm post like multiple reels a day there that are usually clips from the 𝗙𝗿 Sales podcast. So just check out the 𝗙𝗿 Sales podcast. That's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. That's all the stuff for free. If you just learning about me now and want to like figure that out before you even want to reach out. But if you're serious about getting better, about understanding the emotional trajectory, understanding some of the more advanced techniques, because our goal is taking people who are good and taking them to great. We're never as I think Rafael's probably much more patient with people getting started than I am. And same with Steve. Like, there's a reason Steve's always like, I don't even want to talk to someone who hasn't done a deal. He just has he doesn't have the patience for people like that. He's much more like, let's get started. So if you're looking to like really level up, you could text 𝗙𝗿, 𝗙𝗿𝗆, to 33777. That should send you. Hopefully the team's done this. It's supposed to like send you the link and do a bunch of stuff out there to see if you qualify for the Advanced Sales Mastery Program.
Awesome. Before I sign off, man, there's a question that I like asking my guests, and that's, if you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what advice would you give that kid?
17 was a rough year for me. Let's see. I bet you will have never gotten this answer because it's highly practical, because I don't think there's anything I could tell him in huge life advice that he would listen to at 17. The only thing I would tell him to read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Love that book.
Spend your time with that. There's a reason my son's middle name is Aurelius, because of that book. There's a reason Nicholas Aurelius Ross. Like, that is all I can think that would be enough to at least set him on the right path. I got him started on that a little bit sooner. Anything else, he'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about.
It's a very solid. That book is actually sitting on my desk on the other side of this wall. Right?
It's in my car right now.
Yeah, love it. Sounds good, man. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I mean,
Pleasure.
Again, there's a lot of golden nuggets in there. Guys, go back and review that the framework, right? And these are things, again, the importance of communication plays into it, right? Sales is communications. It's having the right way to convey your message across the table to somebody else in a way that they understand it, they see the value of it, and you reassure that the confidence behind what you want to sell them, what solution you have is there for them. Sales, it doesn't have to be this scary world. You don't have to feel like man, I suck at sales. I feel like it's one of the I think it's the one skill that if you dominate, you're gonna be okay. Like,
it makes you. It's truly recession proof. A lot of people brag about that, but like, markets change, whatever. If you are good at having sales conversations, there is not if you're genuinely good, like if my coaching thing totally blows up, if Steve Trang's hit by an airplane, like if all this stuff falls apart, I'm good tomorrow because of the sales skills I have. I know I am valuable to literally every single company in the world. Yeah. I have a pick. And so if you have an active income, a lot of people get into real estate for the passive income. That's like rich dad, poor dad. But if you have an active income problem, there's nothing better than getting good at sales and learning those skills. And it translates to all these other areas of your life. I'm a sales evangelist for a role. It's a perfect representation of personal development and just like personal improvement. How well you do determines how much money you make. It's beautiful. If you get better, you make more money. And all the sort of like ripple effects on your life because of that, all the growth you experience because of that is worth being excited about. Salespeople are I think it's Jeb Blunt who said salespeople are the athletes of the business world. Like, you're paid for your performance. That's worth getting excited about. Accountability is it's enriching if you are the one responsible for it not working out. Yeah. That's what you want. Who wants it to be someone else's fault? No one wants to be a victim. No one really wants to be. The people who are and live in that mindset aren't happy by the nature of being a victim. Yeah. You want to be accountable. That's the most beautiful thing about a sales role. So we're also hiring at Disruptors. There's that if you want to get a job there. Because it's like, I truly believe like sales is a vehicle in pursuit of self-mastery. I love everything about it.
I love it. So with that being said, follow my guy Ian, and guys, go back, take notes, review the podcast. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that was dropped here in terms of framework and how to follow a conversation. So at the very least, do that and touch base with my guy over here. So with that being said, until next time, catch you then. Stay focused. You got this. Let's go.